to try to touch on some of the, I guess, more personal aspects of who you are and what makes up, Judge Cubbage, and how, as a Black woman, how do you succeed and excel in a white male kind of dominated system? How do you drive? What's your drive, and how does that work with you?
Uh, well, let me say this. I interned before I went to law school, and I interned with a lawyer because I wanted to get a feel for it. And the words that this lawyer said to me was, Laura, if you're going to be in this field, you're going to have to develop some thick skin because you're always going to be questioned, you're always going to be doubted, and you're always going to be challenged. And that has held very true for the whole 13, almost 14 years that I've been practicing. But what drives me is the legacy that I leave for other people, even if it's someone that's coming behind me tomorrow. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to do this. It doesn't take a male to do this. It doesn't take a Caucasian to do this. And it doesn't take a lot of money to do this. All you have to do is have the drive and, in my opinion, stay true to the purpose. And for me, the purpose is not about getting a title, wearing a robe, having some letters behind your name. It's about what good are you going to do for the people that you're supposed to be serving.
Right. Right.
And that's what drives me every day. And, as I went on my rant in the first segment about, how you're supposed to be serving people and representing people. And that's what this whole thing is about. Can you if I'm going to be in this justice system, can I every day show someone that this justice system is not two systems? There's not one system for the well-to-do and another system for someone else. That I'm not the judge on the bench that's going to be criminalizing poverty, because we see that so much. And that's what people think, that if I don't have X amount of money, then I don't get fair representation, I don't get effective representation, and I don't even get to get my voice to be heard.
Right. That's a perfect segue into another question we wanted to really hone in on. When you are up there and you've got a defendant that maybe you can tell has extreme anxiety or just doesn't understand what's going on, do you try to educate?
I try to joke first, and be honest with you. I'll look at them, and if I'm in criminal court, that's where the anxiety seems to come. And I'll just look at them, and I'm like, "You good? Are you sure? You need a break. You want some water?"
Right.
And then I tell them, "Listen, I know you're feeling a little anxious, but this is not the end of the world. I know you're nervous. Relax. Talk to me as if you're talking to your homegirl, and let's just have a real conversation once we get into underway." And I just let them know there's going to be some things, there's going to be formalities, but I am going to have a colloquy with you. And when I have that colloquy with you, I want you to be completely open and transparent with me, as I'm going to be with you. And most of those charges that, are in most of these kind of situations you're going to see, it's the young person that comes in, they probably got a weed charge. They might have tried to dabble in a little bit of dope dealing and realize they don't have a skill set for that.
Right.
Yeah. And this is just the truth of the matter. We send our kids away to college. You all know it. I went to college at a later age, so I'm still working. But if you all went to college when you were supposed to, you didn't have any money. You're away from home. Your parents done told you, "I'm paying for this education. Don't call me every week for no money." And you get into doing some things that you didn't really think you would do, or you're with your peers and they want to do this or that, and smoke a little weed, and you're out having fun, and bam, the cop rolls up on you, and there's a weed charge. Well, for me, I make sure that they are comfortable, and then I put things in place that is going to help them get out of this situation and hopefully learn from it. And then once I get them calmed down, then yes, Meredith, I start, my education and telling them this is how this system works, and I want you to see this. No, I can't talk about a case.
Okay. Yeah. They can't do that. So you're hitting on every cylinder, everything kind of had prepared for you. So it sounds like I can maybe ask you about any kind of like an ethical dilemma, almost kind of like anything in the courtroom that you've kind of faced. Like, how did you kind of overcome that, or if you can't go into detail on it, just kind of in a broad sense of how you would deal with ethical dilemmas when it's placed before you.
Um, there's been things that I've faced as a woman and as a Black woman when I've been called the N-word, I've been called a bitch. There's been threats made. I've had people standing at the door. I am real country, y'all.
And, okay.
So am I.
And I remember I just said, I like to put people at ease. Well, also let them know I am here in this Black robe because this is what I chose to do for a living. But what you must understand is there's still a real person under here.
Oh,
right.
Okay.
So, first of all, I tried to make it real light. Like, for instance, I got called a bitch one time. And, of course, I held him in contempt of court, gave him 30 days. But then I made the audience laugh by telling the person, I'm not giving you 30 days because you called me a bitch. I'm giving you 30 days because you got it wrong. I'm not a bitch. I'm the bitch.
Oh.
30 days to get that right.
Wow.
I'll give you 30 days to think about that. And the next time you want to come in my courtroom and call me the bitch word, you best put that right preposition in front of that.
Wow.
And of course it makes the audience laugh, but then I look at them and tell them, don't nobody get up here and try that because you're going to get more than 30. And, it just lets them, I think the audience wants to know that you're a real person up there.
Yeah.
You're not the superficial, perfect person who thinks that everyone in your courtroom has done something wrong and you're the most perfect one there.
Right.
So I try to let them know I'm still real. I had one female one time to tell me that she was going to be waiting for me outside, and I told her, okay, that might not be what you want to do because I'm not a judge after 5, and if you come for me, you're going to get me. So just those types of things that's not a judge, that's not something that a judge should be saying on the bench all the time. But there are some times where you have to let them know that I am still a real person under this robe.
Right.
Other ethical things that you're always dealing with the non-legal side of you that is the real person that does have the compassion and emotion, and you have to put something in place for someone that you wish you did not have to do, or even the law says one thing and you personally completely do not believe in that. Right. And you have to put those personal beliefs to the side because the law is the law, and that's what your ruling should be predicated on, not what you believe or not what you think is right, or whatever. But in all of that, I try to keep in mind that one, you can pass down judgment that's tempered with mercy and compassion, and it doesn't make you a weak judge. It doesn't make you an ineffective judge, but I think it makes you an even stronger judge and a more effective judge because people know that you are actually listening and you're understanding their circumstances and their concerns, and you find a way to bridge that. I am also the type of judge on the trial court level that believes in programs for rehabilitation. I do believe that incarceration is needed and necessary in some cases, but one of my passions in life is our youth. So if I can help it, I'm not going to let a case ruin the life of someone young because they've made a mistake that I easily could have made and probably did make, and possibly just didn't get caught when I was their age. And so I do try to educate them and ask them, take my little 2 or 3 minutes to say, look at the situation. Here's what you're looking at. And when they realize, like, the cost of court, the cost of getting a lawyer, the time that it's going to take, the probation period that you've got someone looking over your shoulder, how you might have a curfew, and while you think you're now grown, you've got some woman on the bench telling you got to be home by 7 o'clock.
Right.
And people really don't want to go through that. So
that's right.
And you get a lot of our young people that do learn, and then you get some that have made up their mind that they just want to do some things different. And handle them accordingly too.
Exactly. That's what I was going to add. That was going to be one of the questions. How do you feel about that growing with what turns out to be a caseload of juveniles coming into the court system who then eventually turn into adults that are in the court system, or that prison pipeline of, from from the home to the streets to the court systems. I mean, that it seems to be a constant growing case and growing population, especially with, Black males. How do you even deal with that? I mean, I know it's something that needs. I don't know if there's a solution for like mediation. Do you lean towards that? Because you kind of just touched on it, but specifically for Black males and young Black males, how do you even kind of address that in your court?
There is most of the time a need for some type of program, but to be honest with you, it's some type of counseling.
Mm.
And though it's sad that these juveniles are coming into our court system, it's actually a good thing because this is the only way they're going to get the counseling that they need. And 90% of those juveniles are male, even though there's a decreasing number of females that are coming. But 99% of those young people, the father is missing from the home, and the father is missing from the life. And the mother has more than one child, and she's working more than one job, and she's trying to make ends meet. And you've got the oldest child that's trying to raise these young children, and they miss out on their childhood simply because they're trying to play the role of a parent at home. And so mom gets home. There's no dad to help discipline. She's wore out. Then she wants the child who's been playing mom and dad all day to the siblings to go back to a child role. And all that breeds anger and resentment and behavioral issues. And so you have to offer the programs that they would not otherwise get, which is the counseling, which is the opportunity to get back to their childhood and be able to grow up like the childhood maybe they envision, or with some type of normalcy, and get them out of the adult role and back to where they need to be. But I'm going to also comment and say this. One great thing about me running for the Court of Appeal is it's not a great thing. It's a reality. It's that I will still be the only African American woman on that bench. And I'm not saying that any woman of any other ethnicity does not experience divorce and single parenthood, but it is one of the leading reasons why our young African American youth end up in the justice system. If you have never walked a day in that experience, you cannot bring that perspective when you're reviewing cases. And it's hard to look. It gets very hard when you have achieved or arrived to understand that everyone's not where you are, and nor did everyone start where you started.
Right.
And even though I went to college at 29, there are still people that did not start there, and they did not have the opportunity to even go to college, period. And that's the one great thing that has come out of all the social unrest, is now everyone has been forced. I don't know what the difference was. I don't have any idea what the difference in the George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, or the Breonna Taylor situations were, because we've seen them happen over and over again.
Right.
But I do think that America is listening, and there are more people than not that is trying to understand the inequities that have existed for so long in all of our institutions, that have perpetuated the things that we see, especially in our judicial system.
That's exactly.
And so we have more people. We have a lot more people now that are trying to make a real difference and not just a verbal difference.
Right.
Yep.
Yes.
That's exactly where our whole premise for this stemmed from.
Yeah.
We have a biracial child. The deaths have been happening, yes. But I think the fact that everybody was sitting home with COVID and not a lot to do except watch this terrible stuff on TV really enforced people to get out there and try to do something. And that's exactly where this came from. We really want people to understand how important this is for your life and for the next generation to get people
Yeah.
in these offices.
Yeah.
And imagine how old is your child?
4.5.
Yeah. 4.
Okay, imagine when she or he starts school.
Yeah. Right.
The things that you all face as an interracial couple is going to be magnified just because she is the offspring of this. Is it a boy or girl?
Boy.
Yeah, Bryson. Yeah.
Boy. The things that he's going to have to face, from the complexion of his skin to the texture of his hair to possibly the color of his eyes to the features that he will have being a biracial child. Does he identify as white? Does he identify as African American? Does he identify as the old term mulatto? Or
Yeah.
People trying to pull him in this direction or that direction and trying to make him do this or that and this. And even with this is one of the reasons why I think we need to get away from this administration, the culture wars that they're trying to put out here and just divide all of us and have everybody go back to their little corners. That's not the world.
Not at all.
That is not the world. My sister's son is biracial, and he goes through it. He's now 14, and he goes through it all the time. And I have my sister's daughter also. My sister is also a grandmother. One of her children are biracial, and Nayla goes through it all the time. And it's like if you guys do not, stay intact to protect this child, society is just trying to tear him up to pieces.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And that's why we try to we are creating this platform so we can be kind of, in a sense, trying to allow people to be educated so how to make this change happen, because it gets super frustrating to just sit back and see everything unfold in front of you and not have a direction on how to improve it, change it, stop it, or do something to curb the direction we're going in. And there's no better way than to educate yourself and find out who these people are that actually are in positions of power to actually make the change that you want to see. So that's why it's super important to be educated on a local level. Definitely.
Yes, and Brian, you are exactly right, because, and I tell people all the time, and I always preface it with including myself. Stop letting candidates make these little 2 to 3 minute stump speeches to you, because we perfect these. We sit at home until we've got the perfect speech that is 3 minutes long, because we know that's what you're going to ask us to say, and then we want you to put us in office for 8 years. This is 8 years. That's a whole generation of decisions that I'm going to be making, a whole generation that I'm affecting, and then the generation after that, and the generation before that. And we've got to get more cognizant of who we're putting. And I'm especially, of course, passionate about judges, but it's because, not necessarily because I'm a judge, but because when you get down and you really unpack all this government stuff, judges, we're the last thing. If someone does not like what their executive branch or legislative branch is doing and they challenge it, it's going to be a judge that makes the final decision about what goes on.
Right.
Any issue in life that you have, if you cannot come to some type of compromise or agreement with the person that you're having an issue with, and it goes to court, it's going to be a judge that's deciding your whole life, who knows nothing about you, who knows nothing about your hopes and dreams and your desires, or where you are and what you struggle with, or any of that, that's going to say, hey, you need to do this and you need to do that. And, that's my opponent is running with a slate of judges that say that if you're a registered Democrat running as a judge, then you're trying to make law on the bench, that you're not following the Constitution. And you see what you guys just said earlier. Oh my God, Laura, that's a lot of information. So to me, I'm like, you know what? Why are we trying to deceive the public? There is no way that a judge can change the Constitution.
Right.
There's no way. And if a constitutional amendment comes, that has to be put on a ballot for the general population to vote on. Now, if the legislature branch puts something in place, or the executive branch puts something in place, and it is challenged to determine whether it's constitutional in its intent or not, it is absolutely the mandate of a judge to say, unpack all that and analyze it and say, yes, that's constitutional, or no, it's not. And I only sit as a judge, and you two only are married or together and having children because people have challenged some of these things the legislature have put in place.
Right.
That was, what's the case? The Loving case out of Virginia.
Right.
Not very long ago. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And someone not challenged that, the constitutionality of that case,
We'd be arrested.
then you have some, and, nothing derogatory or racial about this, but this is the way our country was made up. You'd have a bunch of old white men with gray hair trying to tell you who you're supposed to love.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And who you can actually decide, who you can decide to spend the rest of your life with. That is not their decision to make.
Right.
Right. And so it irritates me to see these candidates going around saying that, because to me it makes it seem like, oh, you guys want to get elected and become a rubber stamp for the legislature? No, you're not supposed to do that. And if the legislature makes a law, it is law. But if it's challenged, then the judges are supposed to determine whether it's constitutional or not. Had people not challenged the constitutionality of what legislative branches were putting in place, I wouldn't be able to run as a judge, as a woman, nor as an African American.
Right.
So we absolutely have to continue to encourage people. If something does not sit right with you and you feel like it's unconstitutional, you have to challenge it.
Right.
Because otherwise it becomes the law of the land. So it has to be challenged.
That's right. That's a responsibility. That is our responsibility.